Don't know why you left me bleeding. With a broken heart, tell me if I deserve this feeling. I thought that you know that we had something special till you end up all this way. Please tell me when you left me bleeding. With a broken heart, tell me why I deserve this feeling. I thought that you loved me, I thought that you need me till you end up all this way.
It appears maybe not. Here come the 5 red lights then for the return of the Canadian Grand Prix here in 2022. And it's lights out, and away we go, and Max Verstappen is in a good start, it seems, cutting right across the corner, and getting right into the perfect position to take the first corner. Max Verstappen will lead, there's the Ferraris there, side by side, did Carlos Sainz going to hit Charles Leclerc, that'll be crucial in terms of a championship. We got 3 wide in turn 2, it's a Williams, I believe, with Albon and Stroll and Tsunoda. We got more with 3 wide moves. Nico Hulkenberg has made 2 places already up to 19th. He's gone past Ocon as well for 18th. It's a great start by Hulkenberg, and finally it seems to have come good for him. Ocon will fight back on the inside line into chicane here. He does, and Hulkenberg unfortunately might have to concede the position because it would be a tight squeeze there. Max Verstappen already up to a second lead over Charles Leclerc. Aiden Jackson then, a bit of a bog down at the start. That's why he lost out to Norris. And Norris probably got a great entry into the first quarter. There's Ricciardo, and it was 3 wide between the 2 McLarens and Perez, and Norris is the man who won out here. Jackson going down the inside of Perez into the chicane, I would have thought. Very good braking by the... Oh, that's a great move from Jackson. That's crucial in terms of championship. I've said before the championship a few times. It's Norris locked up, and Jackson takes full advantage up into P5. Mick Schumacher, meanwhile, is being pressurised by Zhou Guanyu, and that's going to be a movement to the chicane, and Schumacher's going to hold it out. Credit to him. Magnussen's going to catch up as well. It's going to be 3 wide, almost 4 going into turn 1 then, and this is going to show Zhou Guanyu getting a bit out of shape, and fortunately there was no crash, and Magnussen's having to hold off Gasly. George Russell has flown by this lot. Already out to P11. George Russell having another stunning race in the middle of the pack. Max Verstappen 2 seconds now ahead of Charles Leclerc already, and it looks like being one of those. Zhou Guanyu is in the pits. That's an early stop. Lap 7 for the soft tyres. Wow, that is bad, and that's going to be bad for Nico Hulkenberg as well, because that means he's probably not far of a pit stop either. The most intriguing battle on the track is right here, right now. Aiden Jackson. Lewis Hamilton beat Aiden Jackson once again. With vintage Jackson into the hairpin here, like he did on Perez. So far out, he catches Hamilton completely unawares. Look at this. Audi certainly have some drag on that car. He's suddenly waited until after the hairpin this time, gives Hamilton the space going into the chicane, pushes him a little bit towards the wall, but nothing really dangerous there, side by side. Jackson makes it stick. Max Verstappen will win the Canadian Grand Prix. He is back on the top step, followed by Charles Leclerc, but the question is who's going to finish 4th? Will it be Aiden Jackson, or will it be Lewis Hamilton? Hamilton is at the better of Jackson in this section for the most part, but he's not close enough, I don't think. It might be just right over the line. If Hamilton could get a good exit out of the chicane, he did. He is right there, and it is going to be Jackson just. There's never a place quite like home, and some things never change. And by that, I mean it's wet. Only in Silverstone. Am I right? Well, welcome to the 10th round of the 2022 Formula 1 season here for the British Grand Prix, the home Grand Prix for the most majority of the teams. But before we get to any of the action today, we also have to welcome you to the 2022 silly season. And Aaron Hemwood is here with the rundown. And this is a lot of information. Take it away, buddy. Oh, it certainly is chaos. This is a lot of information. I hope you all can keep up. Let's start with the race that happened in midweek with the 15th round of the Grid World Series at the Stadio Olympia circuit. And of course, as you know, there was a multi-car crash which took out the majority of the field. Most escaped serious injury, but Raven West driver Laura Carvalho suffered a break in her left arm which will keep her out for the rest of the season. Why is this significant? Well, that's because Raven West are a big contributor to Audi Sport F1 team on the personnel side. As team principal, Chris Weidman's job is most likely secure, as is that of the pit crew. But as part of the deal, Raven West may look to take one of the Audi drivers away as kind of payment for it. And if that driver does depart, race engineer Rob D will also depart with the chosen driver. I think we have to most likely assume that could go to Nico Hulkenberg, considering Jackson's purple vein of form at the moment. An Audi team member has told Sky Sports reporter Craig Slater that there is a contingency plan in place for that eventuality, but there will need a further few weeks to finalise the deals. A major reshuffle at Audi Sport F1 could be coming. Watch this space. Well, elsewhere in the paddock, there was a huge shockwaves sent around it when Aston Martin announced that Fernando Alonso will be signing for 2023 to replace the retiring Vettel, and from right under Alpine's nose as well. They then subsequently promoted their reserve driver Oscar Piastri, only for Oscar to then make an announcement of his own on Twitter. But he won't be racing for Alpine in 2023. Have you kept up yet? It turns out that Alpine's promotion isn't a watertight contract. So if not them, then who? As it turns out, it may be McLaren of all places. Supposedly, they have already pre-agreed a contract with Oscar a few months back. A move that was only made after failing to land Aiden Jackson in 2021 because of the contracts with their current lineup. A similar situation, ironically, to both Aston Martin and Alpine. This matter has been put before the contract renegotiation board and all will be resolved in the summer break. If this is decided in McLaren's favour, I think it's widely expected that Daniel Ricciardo will be facing another early buyout of his contract to make way for Oscar, and with potential seats wearing thin, it's likely that we might not see Ricciardo on the grid at all. For Alpine, they really need this decision to go their way, or they could end up scrambling for another driver. And with not many options bar Ricciardo and the Academy driver available, Ricciardo most notably because of the way he left Renault in 2020. Ironically, however, if this had been last year and Omar Savnar was team principal then, he most likely would have jumped up a chance to sign Aiden Jackson. As it stands this season, however, I think it'd be very difficult to lure him away from Audi if he is not the driver chosen by Raven West to replace Laura Carvalho. And finally, to a couple of teams lower down the grid, at Haas it's rumoured that Gunther Steiner is growing increasingly impatient with Mick Schumacher after 9 races with 0 points in a somewhat improved Haas from last year. Although on the face of it, this does seem really harsh, seeing that the last year was a write-off, and in the head-to-head between Schumacher and Magnussen this season, it's been fairly even, with Kevin only scoring the 1 point in Saudi Arabia. While at Williams, it's likely that Nicholas Latifi might be moved on for 2023 for F2 driver and Williams Academy pool member Logan Sargent. Have you got all that? Whew. And finally, as for the race today, the stage is set for the first wet start of the season and the first weather-affected race since the Imola Sprint. And thus, everyone will be starting on the intermediate tyres. And we're also hearing that it will be standard procedure at the start, which means a standing start, of course. For the third time this season, Carlos Sainz and Aiden Jackson line up on the front row, looking to resume their battle from last season for 10th place, of course. Jackson has been brought on by his home crowd this weekend, and he has a chance to replicate his magnificent performance back in the F2 feature race in 2020 in changeable conditions, as the rain can always be a great equaliser. Well done getting through all that, Aaron. That was certainly a lot. We hope you all got that. And with that, we can finally get to the action and take a lap around this magnificent circuit. It hosted the very first Formula 1 Championship race all the way back in 1950 and has been a feature of the calendar ever since, despite some scares along the way. It even got a revamp in 2010, of course. And who better to take us round than the legend himself, Lewis Hamilton. Silverstone, there is no place like it, and I know from experience as a fan back in 2015, marking my first appearance. We were on board Lewis Hamilton for a lap around this sensational circuit that was revamped in 2010, and that's the layout we're driving on today. So now the likes of Abbey, and I believe it's the Wellington Straight, are now at the front of the circuit as opposed to the back before 2010. And here we go down the straight now. It is of course the first of two DRS zones on this track, which the second one is down the Hangar Straight, which we'll be approaching soon. So into left field now, and I know that corner because that's where I was sitting as my fan appearance in 2015. We have a yellow flag as Hamilton enters that corner and heads down the old start-finish straight towards, of course, the infamous Cops Corner where Hamilton and Verstappen collided just last season. Russell's run wide, but his lap is behind Hamilton, so it won't be getting in the way of his lap too much. Into the Maggots and Beckett's section, a sensational section. Unfortunately, Hamilton has to lift off a little bit because he's not completely comfortable with the car, although Lewis himself did two sensational things around this circuit. He did a sensational pass in GB2 and won his first British Grand Prix in torrential conditions in 2008. Heading into Stowe Corner, it's almost flat, but again Hamilton not feeling at all comfortable with this car at the moment. That's where Schumacher broke his leg in a crash in 1999. So I don't know all the corners, I know a few, but even still, the British Grand Prix, there's no place like it. It has really earned its place on the calendar. I don't know why anyone would want to change it. British Grand Prix at Silverstone, a Grand Prix and circuit etched in Formula 1 history forever, as the venue of the first ever Formula 1 World Championship race held all the way back in 1950 on a circuit converted from the World War II airbase. The late great Murray Walker was just 27 years old. 72 years later, and we have the most competitive cars in Formula 1 history on a track that's a classic, on conditions that are wet. What a recipe for hopefully another classic British Grand Prix. Commentary from round 10 of the 2022 season. Of course, from Aaron Henwood as always. Thank you, Chaos. Good afternoon, everyone. It's the British Grand Prix and it's wet. Some things never change, and neither does the circuit. After the revamp in 2010, it's 3.6 miles long with 18 corners and 2 DRS zones, none of which will be used because it's a wet start, and of course it's disabled in these conditions. The British Grand Prix at Silverstone is a classic circuit with so much history that you could never imagine a British Grand Prix anywhere else. And I, for one, am hugely proud to say that I am a part of that history. As a visitor, as a fan here in 2015, and my second commentary in a row following from last year. Here's the grid for today's race. Nicholas de TV and Kev Magnussen on the back row of the grid following component changes for both cars. Mick Schumacher goes from 20th behind Zhou Guanyu. Aston Martin and Haas continuing to struggle. Lance Stroll is 18th alongside Valtteri Bottas. That promotes Alex Albon up to 16th alongside Sebastian Vettel, followed by the AlphaTauri pair of Tsunoda behind Gasly. Nico Hulkenberg is P12, followed by Daniel Ricciardo, who could be without a seat next season. Fernando Alonso will be in Aston Martin. He starts 10th alongside his teammate Esteban Ocon. Lando Norris is with Sergio Perez. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are together on the third row. We know what happened here last year when they were on the front row. George Russell is alongside Charles Leclerc, and on the front row for the third time this season is Aiden Jackson behind poleman Carlos Sainz. The British Grand Prix, in the wet conditions, there's nothing like it. We've had some classic races in both sides of the condition coin over the years. 1998, Michael Schumacher winning in the pit lane after serving a stop-go penalty. In 2008, Lewis Hamilton had one of the most sensational drives in history in the wet conditions, absolutely dominating after passing his teammate then Heikki Kovalainen and leading from the front unchallenged. Of course, we had a bit of a maniac on the track back in 2003 in that crazy Grand Prix. That was an absolute classic. And of course, in 2020, we had two sensational races, one in F2 in which Aiden Jackson fell to the back of the grid and stormed through the field to win the feature race, and then in the Grand Prix itself, Lewis Hamilton won the race on three wheels after suffering a puncture. And of course, just last year, in that very corner in Cops, we had the first very infamous collision between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. A blame game that is still played even today. The thankfully thing about it is that Max Verstappen was able to climb out of his car and walk away after a revealed 51G impact, which really bodes well for the safety of these cars. It really proves just how safe these Formula 1 cars are. They're never fully safe, but safety is paramount. That man, Professor Sid Watkins, strived for that very eventuality, and he certainly lived on in these cars and just how safe they are. It really proved last year. Max Verstappen thankfully was able to walk away, and after some massive cheers that when Verstappen headed into the wall is replaced with silence as they waited for him to climb from his car. The cheers were very different then. I think they were very thankful that he just got to walk away from such a really monumental crash, which was really more of a racing incident, although Lewis Hamilton was initially blamed for the collision and given a 10-second stop-go penalty. He went on to win that race, so there's every expectation that Lewis will be in contention this weekend. Of course, we know how good Aiden Jackson and Max Verstappen are in these conditions as well. To quote the late great Moneyball, of course, anything can happen in Formula 1, and it very much usually does. And that has definitely been the case this year. There's nothing quite like it. The British Grand Prix, let's get this one started. There are 5 red lights and a green flag in the back. In the wet conditions, it's lights out, and away we go, and Carl sides at a decent start, as has Jackson. Of course, Jackson spun here in 2020. No such bad luck for him this time. He gets through, and Nicholas Latifi was well out of shape, passing Mick Schumacher. The Haas boys have fallen to the back already, and it's a poor start, but Nicholas Latifi has been quickly displaced by Schumacher and also by Kevin Magnussen. He got it pretty much all wrong going to the corner. He probably picked a little too early, but of course the wet conditions increase the braking distances and all sorts of other stuff too. That's what we love about these races. And we have a wet start, and we're underway then. Nico Hulkenberg has got up to 10th place already. That's a great start for Nico Hulkenberg then. We've all got through the first few corners safely. Carl Sainz has already grown to a second lead, but of course there's no DRS in the wet conditions, so it's kind of mitigated anyway. But in any case, Carl Sainz is already racing away. How good is the Audi in the wet conditions? How good are these cars in wet conditions? The only wet conditions we've had this season was towards the end of the Imola sprint in the last 2 laps. We didn't really get a good feel for how these good cars will perform in the wet conditions. Today we're going to get it. It's probably going to be raining all afternoon. Aiden Jackson is already falling behind. George Russell is up to 3rd. Hamilton's up to 4th. So both Mercedes have got off the line particularly well and ahead of at least one of the Ferraris, and Charles Leclerc, who's now 5th ahead of Max Verstappen. Of course, they're the asterisk points because they are the championship contenders. So they've not had the best of starts. Max Verstappen is only 6th, so he's dropped a place somewhere, I think. I think he was 5th, so Hamilton actually gained 2 places on the start, up to 4th. Carlos Sainz leads then from Aiden Jackson, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, and Nico Hulkenberg is up to 10th as he's passed Ricciardo and Alonso. Will this finally be the weekend that Nico Hulkenberg breaks his barren streak of 8 consecutive races without scoring a point? And will that be telling in Audi's reshuffle later in the season if Raven West come calling for one of their drivers? Here's the replay for Carl Sainz at the start. Pretty much the most perfect start for him, taking the racing line and cutting off any lanes that Jackson had hoped of passing, although I don't think Jackson was particularly fast off the line either, and he's managed to stay second as of now. Here's Nico Hulkenberg, so here's the start. This will be interesting, because how did he get up to 10th? Well, Lando Norris there got a fly off the line. It was Alonso that got bogged down, and that gave Hulkenberg a chance down the outside of the first corner, and then he took it in the second phase, getting a better exit. And he almost got really out of shape there. That was great control from Hulkenberg. He activated the DRS, he dive bomb Daniel Ricciardo or Lando Norris. I think it was Ricciardo actually, and was round the outside of the second Alpine of Esteban Ocon. Unfortunately, Ocon got a much better exit and denied Hulkenberg ninth, but at least he is in the points so far. Lap 2 then, no DRS enabled at the end of this lap due to the wet conditions. And pretty much I think it's all going to be feeling out the track for the first few laps, because of course the first few laps are very different to a formation lap around this track in the wet. And of course we don't really know the performance of these intermediate tyres and these cars in particular. There was George Russell there going down the inside of Aiden Jackson, was it? I think he had a look, but Jackson stayed ahead. So it looks like Jackson had the better exit of the corner, through the corner. He's actually caught up to Carlos Sainz now. That's interesting. I wonder if Carlos Sainz is carrying an issue, because he was a second ahead of Jackson, and the Audi is not really as good as the Ferrari in overall race pace, although you'd be forgiven for thinking that was not the case, because Audi have a very good car underneath them, but certainly not one to really challenge the front on a consistent basis, because Jackson's only won one race this year and Hulkenberg's barely scored any points, sadly. But round the outside goes Aiden Jackson into left field, and Sainz gets out of shape, and Aiden Jackson leads, and you can hear the roar from the crowd. Aiden Jackson leads the British Grand Prix as Carlos Sainz got out of shape in left field, and Jackson leads. He's won here before, back in 2020. That was a great move from Jackson. I wonder if Sainz is carrying a bit of damage though, because he's slowing down. This was a sensational move by Jackson. He was round the outside, and then Sainz, he had the better exit, but then he got out of shape, he fishtailed out of shape, and that's what Jackson gave the inside line, and it was a great pass, and Aiden Jackson leads this race. And let's see what happened to Sainz on board then, and I think he just lost it. Yeah, he's losing the grip. Oh, yeah, Sainz really losing out there. It was really poor handling in the Ferrari, no wonder Jackson took the lead. Very poor exit there for Carlos Sainz, and the car just would not stay straight all through the corner, and now Charles Leclerc has flown down the inside of his teammate, and Sainz has an issue. Sainz really has an issue, and now Hamilton is going down the inside. Sainz is struggling, and you can see it on board his car. Sainz is struggling to get out of the corners. He really is carrying some sort of problem, it seems. He's looking really slow, and I wonder if Sainz is probably suffering some form of damage, or maybe a bit of an engine misfire somewhere, because he's really losing out to Charles Leclerc already down the straight. He's already lost a second. He's out of shape in that corner. Something is not right with the handling of that Ferrari. Sainz is falling like a stone right now. Where is Hamilton? He's still behind him at the moment, but I don't think it's going to be for too much longer, because Sainz is just losing track with everyone. He's probably carrying an engine misfire, if anything, and that's probably contributing to the getting out of shape that he's having. And, oh, that's unfortunate. Daniel Ricciardo has just passed Nico Hulkenberg. That's a shame. So, Hulkenberg now is down in 11th. And it's all now down to George Russell and Aiden Jackson for the win of this race then. That's a very interesting thought. And the British crowd roared when Aiden Jackson took the lead. What will they do here between Russell and Jackson then for the lead of this race? And will Hamilton pass Sainz? How will Leclerc, and well, Leclerc's got ahead of his teammate, and there's a slow motion. That's Hamilton, isn't it? That's Hamilton going slowly. He was passed by Verstappen, Perez, and Norris. He's coming to the pits. What happened to Lewis Hamilton? Oh no! Has he got front wing damage? What happened? Well, he was really nowhere near anybody. I don't really know where Lewis Hamilton would suffer anything, unless he hit Sainz as he was slowing down, then maybe that's why Hamilton wasn't catching him. It's a front wing change. Oh, he may have hit Sainz somewhere then. If he's having to change his front wing. Oh, that's horrible. Oh no. Lewis Hamilton was like in a prime position to probably get about 4th. But as it stands now, he's at the back and hoping for a safety car in this race. Oh, what a shame. Well, we haven't got a replay, strangely. I don't think the director even knows that there may have been possible contact there, but for Hamilton, it's probably race over. We do know how good he is in these conditions in these cars, but he's not really gelled with the Mercedes so well this season. It's definitely been his, I wouldn't say worst, because it's not really his bad. It's just his real his amazing high standards he's set himself over the years. But it's certainly below par this year. And we hope Hamilton gets back to winning soon, because he's not won a race since Saudi Arabia last season. He came close in Spain, of course. Some say he probably won Abu Dhabi 2021, but that's always a contentious subject. And on lap 5 then, Aiden Jackson still leads from George Russell, who's hanging on to Aiden Jackson. Now that's interesting because normally in the head-to-head battles, Mercedes have not had the best of the Audi, but here it seems a bit more even in these conditions. So I wonder if Mercedes has a very decent race car. We don't know how the Audi is in wet conditions. We haven't really seen that this year, as we got a bit of a Daniel Ricciardo going around the outside of Esteban Ocon, which returned to the inside for the end of the lap. They're still side by side going through this corner, and Daniel Ricciardo's going to stick it in and do a fantastic move. Is Hulkenberg going to benefit from that? It's a terrible camera angle. We need to go back there, please. And Ricciardo has passed Ocon. So it's a great pass from Ricciardo, and Hulkenberg loses out to Alonso. So they were side by side through turn 1. We've not got the best cameras here for some reason. Can't really tell what's going on, but in any case, and Alex Albon is now P13, by the way. Unbeknownst to us, Alex Albon has passed a majority of cars to the P13. He's having a stunning race, Alex Albon in the Williams. So full order on lap 6. Jackson leads from George Russell by about 7 tenths. Charles Leclerc is right behind them. Then Carlos Sainz, who's been lucky to stay fourth considering the issues he had earlier. And of both Red Bulls of Verstappen and Perez. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo in 7th and 8th. Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso are 9th and 10th. So it's 2 by 2 by 2 from 6th down to 10th. Then we've got Hulkenberg in 11th, followed by Pierre Gasly. Alex Albon in magnificent 13th place, followed by Sebastian Vettel. Zhou Guanyu and Bottas have beaten both Haas drivers. Schumacher's in 18th, followed by Stroll. Kevin Magnussen now 20th, ahead of Nicholas Latifi. And Lewis Hamilton is 20 seconds back from Nicholas Latifi after having to stop for a front wing change. Most likely off damage from battling with Carlos Sainz, it seems like, because I think that was the only time he was actually close to anybody on the track, outside of from being ahead of Verstappen, of course. Speaking of Max Verstappen, not really making many inroads at the moment. Normally you expect Max Verstappen to fly in these conditions, but unfortunately for him, he's still 6th, and that's not good, because Charles Leclerc is right at the front, as George Russell is having another look down the inside of Aiden Jackson, and he probably had to get out of it, and that's going to give Charles Leclerc some impetus now, and he needs to get going, because of course he's the second man in the championship fight at the moment, just 17 points by Max Verstappen so far. And the gap has been that close between the two all season. It really could go down to the final round, and wouldn't that be a classic thing to witness? Very much like last year in Abu Dhabi, where it went down to the wire. It looks like probably doing that this year, because Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen have been relatively even all season long. So, yeah, it really looks like being a close championship. Max probably being a bit below par today, certainly not flying past Carlos Sainz, but then the Ferrari is the best overall package. So the rain won't really affect them too much at all, and Charles is definitely proving that by holding on to the leaders. And Aiden Jackson is still the lead of those leaders. So how's Hulkenberg doing against Alonso, by the way? He's 11th, and we obviously have to bring up the Audis a lot because one of their drivers may not be here soon. I think the agreement is that will most likely be Hulkenberg, but if it is, who for? Callie Mayer is... who is on Audi's development program, is currently competing in F2 for the championship at the moment, so she won't be brought in. And Audi don't really have many other options aside from that they could pull from another team right now. They might have to go into a bit of a reserve driver role, but the only one on the development program for the moment is Callie Mayer. There's a yellow flag somewhere, and it's for Valtteri Bottas, who is going slow, and I wonder why. I wonder if it's a puncture. And of course we had that race in 2013, who can forget, where we had an abundance of tyre failures, and this circuit can be really, really tough on the tyres, as we have proven before. I think it's a front left puncture for Valtteri Bottas, and he's coming in, so thankfully he'll be still in this race. That might be one less car for Hamilton to deal with, although he's still got to go some to catch the back of the field. He needs a safety car right now. Well, it's unfortunate for Valtteri Bottas, and more misery at Alfa Romeo, quite frankly, because, oh my word, and there's George Russell, Charles Leclerc and Aiden Jackson almost going into that corner all together. And thankfully, there was no collision. They were very in close proximity there, and I'm assuming Bottas is going to get this puncture by going over the curbs. And it seems like it, doesn't it? He was following his teammate Zhou Guanyu, and bag. One of the tyres is gone. I'm assuming that's the front left. looking at it. And that is the reason for Bottas pitting, and that's him out of the race now for anything contention-wise. Alfa Romeo, as we said, more misery for Alfa Romeo. They were at the bottom of the standings last season. They couldn't even beat the Haas drivers, or particularly Aiden Jackson, who won a couple the Monza Grand Prix, and that helped them out. And he almost lost the lead there to Russell, but he got out of shape. This is a magnificent scrap for the lead. Now we've got Carlos Sainz back in the fight, and Max Verstappen as well. This is an absolute classic at the moment. That's Max Verstappen going down the inside of Carlos Sainz, and finally Verstappen is making his move, and he's got a bit out of shape. He's gone wide, and Verstappen is pulling off. What happened there? Was there contact between Verstappen and Sainz, and that's why Verstappen is out? I don't see any reason why it would be an engine failure. Max Verstappen is out of the British Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc will be beaming at that, because that means he will take the lead, but he needs to finish around the top 5 to do that. So this is Verstappen. He was actually sliding, and he actually hit the curb on the right, and I wonder if that caused suspension damage. I wonder if it did. I wonder if the suspension has gone in Max's car, because he took the inside curve a bit too much. I wonder if Sainz actually made any contact with him. Couldn't see on that replay. Hopefully we'll get another one later. And speaking of that, Carlos Sainz is in the pits. I wonder if Sainz had contact with Verstappen and has took him out, and Sainz is going to be coming in most likely for a front wing change. Well, I don't think he took Verstappen out, but it took him out. The contact took him out of the race, because Verstappen had probably taken up more curb, and I think he took the suspension with him. So Carlos now has to pit. This lap is crazy. We're only on lap 10, and we have a crazy race here. Now Carlos Sainz is falling to the back, and they need a safety car right now, because that is there's Charles Leclerc going down the inside, George Russell down the hangar straight. Hopefully we're going to replay the Sainz incident in a moment, but right now let's see this. Charles Leclerc, this is exactly what he needs now, because he will take the championship lead in this instance, and he's down the inside, and he's going to take it. George Russell trying to hang it in, to be fair to him, and he's finally got him. Charles Leclerc, a crucial move in terms of championship position. And I said that this time. Oh, and George Russell almost getting out of shape, retaliating down the inside of Cops, and he's got him as well. And that is proof that you can pass in that corner. And now we've got to replay. It's Carlos Sainz, and this is what happened with Verstappen. So Verstappen takes the inside curve and runs into Sainz. It's unintentional, really. So really, that's a racing incident. I don't think there's any blame on that, because Verstappen was taking too much curve. I wonder if Verstappen had suffered suspension damage, and that took him out. So Max Verstappen is now out of this race. That's the championship leader out of this race then, and Charles Leclerc, almost no matter what at this point, will take the championship lead, because I think there's a 17-point gap between the two, and it's been very even between those two this season. So this is crucial now for Charles Leclerc. Keep it on the island. He needs to keep it on the island and keep it to the end of this race now. Take the championship lead back. And in all this carnage, Nico Hulkenberg is 9th now, and Alex Albon is on the verge of points for Williams. He is in 11th place and running well ahead of Tsunoda. Nico Hulkenberg back in the points for the first time pretty much since Bahrain. He hasn't scored since then. A 9-race losing streak, or an 8-race losing streak, discounting Bahrain in terms of points for Nico Hulkenberg. And, well, this race is absolute carnage at the moment. We've got all sorts happening. We've had Lewis Hamilton in the pits for damage. We've had the Sainz in the pits for damage. We've got Verstappen out of this race. And George Russell was going down the inside of Aiden Jackson to the Cops, I think. Is it Cops? No, it's not. It's the beginning of the circuit, my apologies. And Jackson holds it in again. This is a 3-car battle for the lead. It was a 5-car battle at one point. Sainz has now fallen off because he had to pit. That was unfortunate, because he was coming back into this race. And of course, he had that issue early on, and he lost the lead. I'm assuming he's probably got slight damage somewhere, because he was really out of shape in a lot of the corners. George Russell retaliating down the hangar straight. Will Jackson throw it back down the inside? No. Jackson knows he's probably got a bit of an equal car to the Mercedes, and look, he's taking the Max Verstappen wide line in the corner. Is he going to get George Russell on the outside? And no, He's doing exactly the same thing he did to Sainz, but unfortunately Russell didn't get out of shape there. And no way, they're going to get down the side by side of Cops. And we've had collisions here before just last season. And just another inside of Cops, and he passes Russell. A sensational move by Aiden Jackson. Russell is off the track, and he's losing out. And George Russell has disappeared. He's out of the race. George Russell was stopped at the end of the Cops. What happened? And I don't think there was any contact. And oh my goodness, they're dropping like flies. And George Russell now out of this race, and this is way back at the Wellington straight, I think. And oh my word, I'm losing my voice here. George Russell down the inside, and what happened? I wonder what happened there. I don't think. Oh, the safety car is deployed because I'm hearing that Kevin Magnussen has a puncture. The safety car is deployed because Kevin Magnussen is going slowly. So the race director, Wittich, has decided to put the race under the safety car because of what's going on at the moment. Kevin Magnussen, I'm hearing, gets a puncture and he's just pitted. George Russell just lost drive. And another Mercedes retirement for George Russell. That's the second consecutive in obviously 2 races because he retired from Canada as well. Oh my word, I've got to get my breath and force back here. So this is Kevin Magnussen. This is what happened to him. He had a puncture. Oh my word. Oh my word. That is gone. That's right front completely torn off with Kevin Magnussen. You can completely understand why the race director has felt to neutralise the race under the safety car then.
Safety car deployed, Aiden. Safety car is deployed. We advise you box for a new set of intermediate tyres and keep track position. Copy that. I'm with you. Let's confirm.
So Aiden Jackson's boxing now. Good decision from Audi. And they're bringing Jackson into the pits for a new set of inters. Get a new set of boots on. So, if anything, everyone else will probably follow him in to keep track position themselves. But all sorts of carnage going on at the moment. Oh, another crazy British Grand Prix is nothing like it. And now, we got Aiden Jackson coming into the pits to put a new set of inters on for the last few laps of this race. Well, it's a bit of a time to go yet. And Jackson's the only one coming in. Oh my word. So Audi have brought Jackson in and no one else has done it. Track position, they said, he's going to lose it. How much is Jackson going to lose at the end of his pit stop? There's Ferrari in the pits, so they were expecting someone. But no one has come by. Some pit crews are standing by, but only Audi have all their crew out. So Jackson is now going to fall down the field. He's now down to 9th and no one else has pitted. This could be a bad decision by everyone. Jackson here might just get an advantage on a new set of inters. Jackson might have put himself right into the contention for winning this race because no one else has pitted on the safety car. Well, this is very interesting. So Charles Leclerc now leads from Perez. We've got both McLarens. Esteban Ocon and Alonso. Hulkenberg is now 7th, followed by Pierre Gasly. Alex Albon is now 9th, ahead of Tsunoda. Sebastian Vettel, Zhou Guan Yu, Mick Schumacher, 13th now. He's made a few places, I think, Mick Schumacher. Lance Stroll, Aiden Jackson, Nicholas TV, Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. That brings them two right back to contention now, because they'll be right on the back with faster cars. But Jackson will have a new set of tyres. I wonder if Hamilton and Sainz's early pit stops have been a blessing in disguise. And I only think that because no one behind Jackson pitted. Jackson was the only one who put the inters on. They mentioned track position. He's lost it. He's lost it and he's down to 16th, but he'll have newer tyres than everyone ahead of him. So even if everyone else chooses not to pit, which I'm assuming they might, they'll have to, if they want to stay on the track and keep any track position they have. But strange call from Audi. He's the only one that pitted. No one else has. And I think everyone else has made a monumental error, because Jackson now is going to be on fresher tyres. He won't be using them up in the safety car period. And now everyone else is forced to stay out on those inters. But can they do it? We know the inters wear a lot more than they used to. Back in the day, you used to do a whole race on a set of intermediates. That's what everyone's going to do right now. But Silverstone is notorious for tyre wear, as Kevin Magnussen and someone else has proved. I've forgotten who it was because it was so long ago. It was Magnussen and Bottas that pitted for new sets of intermediates. So the winners here will be Aiden Jackson, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Kevin Magnussen and Valtteri Bottas will get the big benefits from this because they have already got a new set of inters on that could take him to the end of the race. Everyone else will have to pit because if they don't, they run the risk of puncturing their tyres. We're going to have a mass amount of cars in the pits sooner or later. Of course, the safety car mitigates that a little bit. But we've got the potential here, folks, of a very interesting race order when this all filters out. Because no doubt everyone will be forced to pit because if they don't, they'll be pitting for new tyres anyway because of the amount of punctures we've had. We've had 2 already. And I think that's why Aiden Jackson was called in by his team. Audi making a very smart call then to win this race. Bernd Mailander, safety car driver, is currently out at the moment. We had the safety car because we had Kevin Magnussen going slow on the track with a puncture, and we had always had George Russell off at comps, presumably from a car failure or a component failure of some kind in his car or some other problem. I don't think he got hit by Jackson and all that. I think Jackson was clean, so it's not caused by him. Ooh, let's take a moment and let's take a moment and rest up here because I think it's going to get crazy. A safety car is in this lap then. Message from race control. How long will these guys stay out? Will they try to make it to the end of the race? I don't see any other choice than to try. But the tyres are notoriously known for wearing here. And Aiden Jackson may have just made a 300 IQ call. And once again, in the wet conditions, he did it in 2020. And once Charles Leclerc puts the pedal down, it will be green flag. And here we go. And he's caught Perez napping Charles Leclerc. He's already taken off. Almost all to a second already, but will he have to pit? Green flag then. And wow, Charles Leclerc getting an absolute monstrous restart there. But how long would it last before everyone has to pit? And that could be very unfortunate for Alex Albon. Although he'll get served first because he's ahead of Latifi. So and Hamilton's already passing Latifi. Speaking of him, and well, Hamilton's gone on the pedal already. Down up into P16, and this could really earn the help of the drivers that pitted early. Question is, will everyone be coming in now or the next lap maybe? What order are we going to have here? And we've got a Carlos Sainz now battling with the CV as well. Round the outside, the CV gets out of shape and he loses the position. Oh my word. We're getting all sorts of crazy stuff happening here, and already Aiden Jackson's losing out to George Russell there, Lance Stroll there, my apologies. He's already got Hamilton all over the back of him, and those two are going to have to race again, like we did in Canada. Hamilton was very full of praise for Aiden Jackson, said he really enjoyed racing him, and I wonder if that was a dig at Verstappen, but in any case, that's very high praise. The summertime world champion to praise a youngster like Jackson, and yeah, here we go. Here they go then. Oh, everyone is coming in. Everyone is coming in. This is going to be pandemonium in the pits. Charles Leclerc is coming in. Perez is coming in. Both McLarens. Some teams are double stacking. This is going to be absolute mayhem. And Aiden Jackson is going to be the big benefactor of it all because he's going to lead this race again. Oh my goodness, we need to cut to the pits because this is going to be absolute carnage. There we go then. There is one McLaren being stacked up. Everyone is in. Oh my word. This reminds me of a race on the Virtual Sport Network that Chris created. Commentary by Trevor Sports. And everyone was in the pits. I remember his reaction of, oh my word. This is exactly the same thing. Oh my goodness me. What is happening? Literally everyone has come in for the set of intermediate tyres. Most teams double stacked. What a colossal error by everybody. By Aiden Jackson, Carlos Sainz, Kevin Magnussen, Valtteri Bottas. Oh my goodness. Valtteri Bottas is 4th. Alfa Romeo have been nowhere near here all season. And not only that, folks, Zhou Guan Yu is 8th. So that could be double points for Alfa Romeo. Perez has gone on, I think. Has he? Has he gone on there? Because he seems pretty close to Bottas, who's... No, Perez is 14 seconds by Bottas, so Perez was... Oh my word. Okay, so let's go through the order here, because I think it's very confusing. According to the timing tower, let's see this. So, Aiden Jackson leads from Carlos Sainz by under a second. Then we've got Kevin Magnussen in P3 for Haas. Bottas P4. Perez 5th. Hulkenberg in 6th. That's the highest he's been since Bahrain. Alex Albon 7th. Zhou Guanyu 8th. Hamilton 9th. Vettel 10th. Schumacher 11th. Gasly 12th. 13th is Nicholas Latifi. 14th is Ocon. 15th is Lando Norris. 16th is Tsunoda, 17th is Stroll, 18th is Charles Leclerc, 19th is Alonso, 20th Ricciardo, and Russell and Verstappen out of this race. I think I got it right. There's Carlos Sainz having a look down the inside of Jackson there. Oh my goodness me. So Lewis Hamilton actually didn't actually make as much of an advantage as I thought, because he's actually still behind Zhou Guanyu and Alex Albon. So oh my word, absolute carnage. We saw a virtual sport network moment, commentary from Trevor Sports on that channel. Check them out, they're our good friends over there, with Trevor Walker, and it was pandemonium in the pits, and we've just had it here as well. Oh man, okay, give me a moment, because this is wild. This is absolutely wild at the moment. We've got Kevin Magnussen in P3 for Haas on for their second podium ever in Formula 1, obviously following on from the win that Aiden Jackson scored at Monza last year. And poor Mick Schumacher is down in 11th, chasing his friend Sebastian Vettel. And as much as I think Vettel would like to let Schumacher through to score a point, he's got a job to do for Aston Martin. He can't do it because Aston Martin have no points at the end this season. This is their best chance. Oh, wow. This is just absolutely wild at the moment. This is huge, in the words of Peter Murdoch and Alex Gillard. Huge, as they say. Oh my word, absolute craziness in the pits. There's Lewis Hamilton making his way past Zhou Guanyu for 8th. Let's hope he can hold on to a couple of points. I think that would be the first point Zhou Guanyu has scored this season, although I think he might have scored earlier. But this would certainly be a first point of the season for Williams, who with Alex Albon in 7th, although he is being chased by Lewis Hamilton to be fair. We've got Hulkenberg back in the points, back in P6, there he is. And he's not scored since Bahrain. So this would be perfect double points for Audi, and the fact that they are chasing Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship, this could even be even more vital with Jackson on for 25, but Hamilton is flying at the moment on his tyres. Oh man, absolute just wild at the moment. I can't believe it. We're looking at Magnussen 3rd, Bottas 4th, Hulkenberg 6th, Albon 7th, and Zhou Guanyu in 9th, and Hamilton absolutely charging through the field at the moment. I wonder if he could win this race. Probably not from there. I think he's a bit further behind, because Perez is like 12 seconds behind Bottas. He's really not making any inroads on Bottas, surprisingly. And with Hamilton almost out of shape, there it comes. I think he's probably just trying to find a better line on the exit there. Probably going to pass Albon down the straight. Let's hope that Alex Albon can hold on to P8. He's probably not going to hold on to Hamilton very much, sadly. But if he can hold on to 8th, that would be monumental for Williams. I think, to be fair, looking at it now, let's think about this. So, would Audi get ahead of Mercedes in the Constructors at this point? I think it'd be very close. Red Bull and Ferrari will still lead, I would have thought, as Alonso passes Lance Stroll for P18. So, looking at it now, Haas would actually go ahead of Williams at this point. This is obviously for the lower ends of the points coming the end of the season. Every position is vital with the prize money given at the end of the season. So I think Haas would be leading that scrap because they're about to get 15 points, adding to the one that Kevin Magnussen has. So that's 16. So they would be like behind the Audis, Alpine and McLaren and such. Alfa Romeo, much needed double points finish. Maybe that would actually put them ahead of Haas because Alfa Romeo were ahead of Haas to begin with. So there's a scrap going on there. Williams are going to get 3 points at the moment. That's going to put them ahead of Aston Martin, who have only gone for 1. So every team is going to score this season, and every driver, bar Nicholas Latifi and Mick Schumacher. Mick Schumacher and Nicholas Latifi are going to be the only two not scoring a point this year. Oh no, that could be Lance Stroll as well. I don't think Lance Stroll has sadly scored either, because he's down in P18, 19 rather. And well, ramifications for the championship. I think Aiden Jackson has pretty much pegged Carlos Sainz at the moment. They're not really focusing on the front. And well, in a weekend where Schumacher has come under the rumoured to be come under the scrutiny of Gunther Steiner this weekend. This is exactly what he didn't need, and as much as, like I said, his friends ahead Vettel would like to help out and give him a point, he can't, because Aston Martin also need the point as well. Haas are about to get 15 with Kevin Magnussen being third. So Vettel just wants to make sure he can get Aston Martin on the board, because it has been a very disappointing season for Aston Martin. With a world-class driver in Sebastian Vettel, this will be the first points finish of the season. You can't put it all on Vettel, it's most of the car. Meanwhile, at the front, we've not really talked about it, but there's still a tremendous battle going on between Carlos Sainz and Aiden Jackson. And last season, of course, Aiden Jackson beat Carlos Sainz to the final point-playing position last year in the Haas. So that battle continues, and unfortunately for Audi fans, and there's a lot of them, Lewis Hamilton is about to pass Nico Hulkenberg. It's pretty much going to be academic, I would have thought, down the straight, as he did with Alex Albon. And it's not really that. Oh, he's got out of shape a little bit, but I think it's going to be academic. But fortunately for Hulkenberg, he's still on for P7. He should be comfortable ahead of the Williams of Alex Albon that is gallantly holding on to 8th place. Well, after all the scrutiny Alfa Romeo have been under this season, where they barely scored any points until I think it was a couple of races ago, now they're on for a double points finish with Bottas 4th and Zhou Guanyu 8th. Oh man, I can barely keep up with what's going on right now. But at the front, Aiden Jackson is still ahead of Carlos Sainz, roared on by every lap that goes by. You are going to hear the British contingent into raptures by the end of this race if Jackson can pull this off. A 300 IQ call by Audi has put Jackson in this position. And he's going to make the most of it, I can guarantee you that. Well, look at this, folks. Kevin Magnussen at Haas in P3. We haven't seen Haas this high up since Monza last year. Kevin Magnussen, the man drafted in to replace Nikita Mazepin very late in the day, after Mazepin was dropped from the sport entirely. And now Kevin Magnussen is on the verge of getting Haas their second podium. It's amazing how things work out. What must this man be thinking? As much as he'd love to let Schumacher by, no doubt, he can't. He's got a job to do for Aston Martin. I don't think Mick will hold it against him, quite frankly. He's not that type of person. But in any case, I think Pierre Gasly is actually closing in on Mick Schumacher. So the AlphaTauri is better than Haas in car performance at the moment. So I think Schumacher's going to lose out, unfortunately, again. Why would he be coming under scrutiny for Gunther Steiner? He's not. It makes no sense. I mean, Gunther Steiner's denied it, but honestly, I don't really understand why Schumacher would be under scrutiny like that. He's already had 2 11th place finishes this season. He's been relatively better than Kevin Magnussen for the majority in finishing position and qualifying position. He's been hugely unlucky not to get any points. Kevin Magnussen only scored 1 in Saudi Arabia. I mean, that's really going to change in a few laps' time because Magnussen's about to finish on the podium. I guess if he is, then this is not going to help him. And here we are with Nico Hulkenberg back in amongst the points finally. After an 8 race barren streak of scoring no points, Nico Hulkenberg is now up to 7th. And he's going to be comfortably ahead of Max Albon. We have Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz is not giving us up for the win here on Aiden Jackson. Jackson gives it the space going into Stowe. And Jackson now shouting. Sainz loses the car lead again. He's having real problems with the rear of that car. The rear of that Ferrari is not stable at the moment. And I think the fact that Audi in the rain is certainly helping Jackson kind of control his car better. But you can tell, oh, and Sainz has slid. Sainz slid and he saved it. And that's rally experience for you. His famous father, Carlos Sainz Sr., obviously a world champion rally driver. And that was a piece of that right there. Pierre Gasly's passed Mick Schumacher. So, very unfortunate for Mick Schumacher. Pierre Gasly has passed him. Now, Sebastian Vettel can defend for all his life to that point position. Well, it's all filtered out after a mass amount of cars in the pits. Some being held up. I think the losers were Daniel Ricciardo. He was definitely a loser because he was behind Lando Norris, right behind him in the pits. Why some cars opted to double stack, I have no idea. But I think the worry over punctures was definitely the right thing to worry about. Especially with Valtteri Bottas, after all his problems. And Kevin Magnussen and Valtteri Bottas suffered punctures in this race. And now they're about to get 3rd and 4th, respectively. Incredible. Absolutely incredible how that works out. Well, Jackson is certainly not, well, I wouldn't say he's not getting the best out of his tyres. I mean, Sainz is on newer tyres as well. But his tyres are older than Jackson's, so how Jackson is pulling away, I don't know. Having said that, he's the second head now. Well, just listen to the cheers when he drives past. Wow, it's incredible. You can hear it even through the car engine. I think Hamilton said that once. I think it was in 2008. You can hear the crowd roars through the engine. And I know how that is from experience. The cheers Hamilton got when he drove by in 2015. Absolutely a wonderful atmosphere. Of course, there was a legion of Max fans behind us at the time. Myself and the missus. And we went for with a couple of our friends back in 2015. There was a Max legion behind us at the time. And it rained and I got soaked because I forgot my coat that day because I didn't think it would have a coat because I think it was sunny and it ended up raining and then it got soaked. It dried off pretty quickly though because I think it was like sunny afterwards, wasn't it? If I remember rightly. But in any case, we haven't really focused on the racing because we're trying to sort out what's going on here. We have penultimate lap and Aiden Jackson is about to grab, you would think, a monumental victory here. He won here in 2020. He won in the feature race after an absolutely storming drive. He made the early call to go on to dry tires. He did exactly what he did in 2020. It's the same thing. Only that time he pitted for dry tires and he pitted the faster of the dry tires to win the race. Some of the drivers, including Mick Schumacher and Yuki Tsunoda for that matter, were on the wet tires at the time trying to finish the race. So what a difference a couple of years has made, even though Yuki Tsunoda's P19 and Schumacher's P12 being chased by Lando Norris. In fact, I think it won't be long before he's actually passed by Lando Norris. But what an order. Once again, Aiden Jackson on the final lap leads from Carlos Sainz as they battle to the end again. Lewis Hamilton set the fastest lap of 140.6 because he's absolutely flying, but unfortunately he's not going to catch Perez. So, Jackson, Sainz, Magnussen, Bottas, Perez, Hamilton, Hulkenberg, Albon, Zhou, Guan Yu, Vettel, Gasly, Schumacher, Norris, Leclerc, Latifi, Alonso, Ocon, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Stroll, and that is your top 20 because Russell and Verstappen are out of this race. Carlos Sainz on the final lap is having another look at Jackson. It's very close. Can Jackson defend? He's ruled on by the home crowd. They are seriously on the edge of their seat, hoping Jackson can make it. Carlos Sainz to look down the outside of Cops, and he chose not to go for it. I think that's a very wise decision. Ferrari are definitely going to rue this one because in the championship standings that means Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen are going to be status quo as they started the day. They're going to end the day as they started in a race that was a monumental error from Charles Leclerc on his part that could lose championships by the end of the season. Here we come into Stowe for the final time. Like he was last year, Jackson is pursued by Carlos Sainz of the Ferrari. Last year, he beat him to a point. This year, Jackson looks to beat him to a win. His third in Formula 1, the sweetest of all. Aiden Jackson wins the British Grand Prix. The British fans have a new hero to cheer. Aiden Jackson wins here again. He's good at this place. But what an order. Kevin Magnussen will be third. Bottas will be fourth. Albon will be eighth. Zhou will be ninth. What an absolutely crazy top 10 that is. And Hulkenberg finally.
Aiden Jackson, you have won your home Grand Prix, mate. That is the checkered flag. Take it in. Enjoy it, mate. You deserve it. Boys, we got lucky. But the strike call was ace. Thanks, guys. Yes.
He certainly knows how lucky he was. He was lucky. Everyone else made a monumental error and pitted after the safety car. And wow. And I was about to say that Hulkenberg, at the 8th time of asking, or 9th time since Bahrain, has finally scored more points for Audi. But will he be here much longer? And we hear, of course, that Raven West could be thinking of taking an Audi driver as part of their personnel deal swap. And, well, it's going to be harsh either way, isn't it? But you have to think that Audi will do everything in their power to hold on to Aiden Jackson because right now, this kid is something else. He has won for the second time this season. Look at that order, guys. That is the most amazing order. Williams and Aston Martin score their first points of the season. Every team has scored in 2022 with only a few drivers left, being Mick Schumacher, Nicolas Latifi, and I believe unfortunately Lance Stroll, who finished well down the back today. No points for Charles Leclerc and no points for Max Verstappen in the championship means that the championship will stay as it were at the top. And big points for Audi Romeo. Does that, not Alfa Romeo, Audi rather, because that might help them in the constructors. I think we need to have a look because I believe Audi won't surpass them, but they'll be very close actually. And if they can continue that form, that will help them out. So Jackson does stay fourth behind Carlos Sainz. He's only really gone into a little bit of his lead there. Is that like 1 point? Pretty close to third. I don't think Aiden will get third, but it certainly helps. So Bottas, Magnussen, and Hulkenberg all jump up a multitude of places. Bottas now 11th, Magnussen 12th, Hulkenberg 13th now. Albon's up to 16th ahead of Zhou Guan Yu. Tsunoda is the other driver to score. So Schumacher, Tsunoda, Stroll, and Latifi, the only ones not to score in the drivers. In the constructors, Alfa Romeo now go up to 7th ahead of Haas. And Williams get ahead of Aston Martin, and Audi have not surpassed Mercedes yet, but that'll really help in closing the gap. But Hamilton's fight back certainly mitigated that effort a little bit. Wow. It's the British Grand Prix. It always brings up a classic, doesn't it? Aiden Jackson wins, but my goodness, what a top 10. What a race. And next is the second sprint race of the season at Austria. But what will that shake-up possibly mean for Audi Sport? Surely they can't take Jackson, right? Watch this space. Goodbye from Silverstone. We'll be see you in Austria when Formula 1 returns. What a cracker.